first story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to sign a document my late dad's wife is pressuring me to? My father passed away 3 years ago from lung cancer, which spread to his brain toward the end. It was an awful time for us, and I miss him terribly. My mom died when I was 15, and when she died, her life insurance/death in service benefit paid out, and it paid off the rest of the mortgage on the house. Due to my dad being, at the time, an aggressive alcoholic, I moved out when I was 16. We still maintained a rocky relationship, and then later years, we were much better, and we were very close. I loved him so much despite the bad stuff. A couple years later, he met his girlfriend. Eventually, they got married around 2015. I never totally got on with her, nothing in common, and hard to relate with. But my dad was happy, and we had a polite relationship, as I wanted my dad to have a companion. I've never considered her a stepmom. Anyway, after he died, I found out that his will had been changed 2 weeks before he passed, whilst he had a large brain tumor. Without my knowledge, I am one of the executors, so quite surprised I wasn't told, which meant the sale of my parents' home would go from being split 3 ways, to her getting half, and my brother and I the other half to split. We were not happy with how this went down, but we have to accept the change to the will and moved on. She has now decided she wants to sell because she wants to move. She mentioned she wanted to get some work done on the house to increase the sale price, and I emailed her saying not to spend much as it wasn't worth it and it was unnecessary. She invited me over a few weeks ago to see the work and to give me some documents. When I got home, I looked at the document she wanted me to sign, agreeing to deduct nearly £16,000 from the sale of the house to pay herself back for the work. Some of it was done ages ago and clearly for her living comfort, and other paperwork only gave quotes for work, not actual receipts or invoices. The terms of the will are that she could live there until her death, but she is responsible for the upkeep and maintenance as well as bills. She has lived there for 14 years rent-free with my dad, and 3 years without him. My friends, family and I think is an absolute piss take to ask us for this money, considering it is our family home which not only did both of our parents have to die for her to get, but is our only inheritance from our parents. She is now pressuring me to agree to this, and I am not happy I am being bullied by her to sign. She wrote the document, not a solicitor, and no solicitor has been involved from her end about this. She has now told me she will withdraw the property from the market if I don't agree. Which honestly, even though I am struggling financially and need to pay off debt, I don't care about, because if she lived there until she died, then the house will just go to me and my brother, and her adult kids won't benefit from my parents. So, am I the a-hole for protecting what's left of mine and my brother's inheritance? Edit. Thank you all for your advice and help. It's been very reassuring for me. I'm speaking to legal assistance Friday. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Don't sign that. She wants to take advantage of you. Exactly. My husband is absolutely adamant that I don't let her bully me. I just suck with confrontation, and she's blackmailing me now. Edit. The blackmail is more of the threat of saying, if you don't sign it, I won't sell. Which, to be honest, is ridiculous. But maybe blackmail isn't the right word. I got the email yesterday saying that, and I was furious. I'd take it a step further and contest the will. You can probably change it back to the original agreement, considering your father's brain tumor. I'm sorry for your loss, by the way. This can't be easy on top of it all. But I'm not a lawyer. I did see a solicitor at a time when we realized the will had been changed, and was told it was a waste of time. I'm starting to think I should get a different opinion, but I can't afford a big legal battle. Not the a-hole. She is being shady. I would contact the solicitor if your father changed his will 2 weeks before his death with a brain tumor. It could be contested. I tried in the beginning and was told it was very difficult to contest the will, and as I was grieving and in a bad place at the time, so I just buried my head in the sand. She has made everything difficult since, and even blocked my access to the house. It's been hell. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my child's survivor's benefit to my stepchildren? My child's father and I were together for 5 years and have a 2-year-old child together. Well, before we met, he struggled with alcoholism, which had caused problems in his first family. He had 2 children prior, who he wasn't a good father to, as he was mostly absent on benders. They were raised by their mother, who is apparently nice but flaky. By the time I met him, those kids were both over 18, and he had had years of recovery, so it was hard for me to judge. He was a loving and attentive father to our child, and so I didn't think about it. He died of liver failure when my child was 2, and now it's just us. He had nothing but a medical debt, which I didn't inherit thankfully as we weren't married, so all my child has is survivor's benefits until they are 18. My child's father's 2 older children, my stepchildren, are both over 18, so they aren't eligible for anything. I currently use it as child support and save as much as possible for college and a future nest egg. My stepkids have figured out that as a minor, my child is getting money and are clamoring for their share. They are claiming that since it's the only inheritance, it should be split equally among all 3 of his children, not just all for the one who was the lucky age. They also say that because he was absent and bad for them, they deserve his money. It isn't more anyway. They've gotten some of his relatives to agree with them, and now I'm stuck choosing between risking my child's future or risking burning bridges that I'd rather not burn because they are my child's only connection to their father. I am currently refusing. I realize that he was bad and absent, but I don't think that's on me or my child to fix. But is the money worth nuking half my child's family relationships? Not day hall. Do not agree to sacrifice your young child's future to give the Social Security money that is intended to help you raise your child to 2 grown adults. If you do this and Social Security finds out, your child could lose benefits or you may no longer be allowed to be the representative payee for your child. Send every single person who is harassing you about illegally diverting your child's benefits to his grown children this link and tell them that you have no intention of breaking the law. The people who are harassing you are not your child's only link to his father. Your child has you, and any of his father's family members who are trying to steal from a fatherless 2-year-old in violation of federal law are not people you need around your child. I wish I could give you an award. This is an absolutely perfect way to shut them down. Not the a-hole. Not only are you not the a-hole, what they're asking you to do wouldn't be legal. There are guidelines on what you may use Social Security survival benefits for, and handouts to other family members aren't on the list. If you're getting a lot of pushback from them, maybe let them know that Social Security disallows you from doing that. Not the a-hole. I would 100% like to see children of the deceased getting a fair share of inheritance, even if only the new family is officially granted it. This isn't inheritance. Having a parent die sucks. Having a parent die poor sucks. There is no inheritance here, and that sucks. But it's not on you to take from your child to make up for your partner dying poor. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for moving out because my girlfriend moved her mom in? A few months ago, I was near the end of my lease and instead of renewing it, my girlfriend asked me to move in with her. Our relationship was at that level, and she needed help with rent since her hours were cut, and she had been dipping into her savings to get around, so it just made sense. I ended up paying 60% of all shared costs. We were going to go 50-50, but since her hours were cut, and I already made more than her before that happened, so I figured it would allow her to replenish her savings. It was pretty great for a few months, until she, out of the blue, told me her mom was going to come live with us as she had lost her job and house. I told her I was not comfortable with that and asked if there were alternatives. She said that she could live with her grandma, her mom's mom, but that her mom felt it was humiliating, so that was a no-go. I still told her I was not okay with this. Apparently, living with her adult daughter and her boyfriend is less humiliating. Now, it is worth noting that her mom is, well, weird. She is very obsessive, entitled, high maintenance, puts her nose where it doesn't belong, and is a very dominant do-it-my-way type of person. She once had a meltdown because my girlfriend baked a cake for her nephew's birthday, and so did her mom. She did not know about this, but my girlfriend's cake was better. And cue meltdown. I got dozens of stories like this. My protests were ignored, and 4 weeks ago, her mom moved into the guest room. Day one was already a crap show. I was going on a grocery run and noticed my grocery list had a ton of extra stuff on it. When I asked, her mom said she added it. So I asked her for money, and she said she had none, and my girlfriend acted like I was a jerk for asking. It turned into an argument with my girlfriend where she said it's her name on the lease, so her choice who lives there. Long story short, I noticed in the store all of the stuff she added was brand stuff and costs way more. And when I got to the cash register, I had to pay $220, where I usually spend like $90 at most for the two of us. I put it on my girlfriend's card, cause hell, I ain't paying for that. When I got home, I called a buddy, asked him if I could crash at his place for a bit, a few weeks at most, while I look for a new apartment. He asked his girlfriend, and they called me back later giving me the okay, and I moved out the next day. I am moving into a new place in a week. Obviously, we were barely on speaking terms when I left. Now that we started talking again, she has been adamant I am in the wrong, and the only reason I did what I did was because it was her mom and not someone else. Had it been her dad, I would have been fine with it, and I can't deny that, lol. Her dad is great. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Look, this is not okay. You should feel comfortable in your own home. If you pay bills there, you get a voice. Your girlfriend has diminished your voice and claimed ownership and all rights to the decision. Your best chance here is to tell her that since it's her on the lease, she can figure it out then and move out. It's not cruel to do this since this is not what was agreed to. You have every reason to not to want to live with her mother. That was my thinking too. Like, sure, it is your name on the lease, but I'm footing most of the bills. And to be clear, I already moved out. I am at a buddy now and moving into my own place in a week. Not the a-hole. She made you believe that you were sharing an apartment until it came to a decision that you couldn't agree on. Then it's her apartment. So you did the right thing because now you can do what you want in your apartment. Not the a-hole. She made a unilateral decision. While that may be her prerogative, since the lease is in her name, you are under no obligation to stick around if you're not on the lease. You're also under no obligation to pay for the mom's food. She's a guest. Unless she has dietary restrictions due to medical needs, she should eat what is available and not dictate you buy other stuff. Add it to add, your relationship probably won't survive this, nor should it. You will be dealing with this sort of behavior for the rest of your life if this is the sort of thing she does. Well, added to that, why would I pay it all for someone I don't want there in the first place? And I have considered that we may not survive this as a couple, but this is a hill I am willing to die on. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my stepsister and mom that even though her mom died, I also lost my mom too? When I was 6, my mom remarried to my stepdad. He had a 3-year-old daughter and his wife passed away in a car accident a year before. Even that young, I could tell my mother's attention was not on me, but my stepsister. She catered to her every need, saying it's because she needs a mother figure, which I get. She was enrolled in many sports as a kid while I wasn't in any because there wasn't even money. She did 3, I did none. My mom would buy her the newest clothes and shoes and technology, and I would have her hand-me-downs. She basically treated my stepsister like her daughter, and I was an afterthought. While my stepsister had my mom and her dad, I had nobody. My dad was never in my life. They would go on family vacations without me. My stepdad loved that my mom prioritized his daughter over me. When I was 10, they decided they couldn't give my stepsister the attention she deserved with me in the house, so they sent me away to live with my aunt in a different state. For 3 years, my mom had basically no contact with me. I would answer the phone and it was always my stepdad or stepsister. My stepsister would say her mom's busy and hang up. She would tell me to stop calling because if my mom wanted to talk to me, she wouldn't have sent me away. I went 6 months without talking to my mom once. My aunt hated my mom for the way she treated me and told me I deserved better, so she basically became a surrogate parent. When I was 13, she ended up passing away from complications from a disease she had been suffering from. I was so heartbroken, and my mom reluctantly allowed me to move back in after consulting with other family members to see if they would take me. I tried to justify it to myself as a teen that maybe she just doesn't want to be a mom, but she was a mom to my stepsister. She would post her accomplishments in social media, parade her around the family as her golden child. She even said she thinks my stepsister looks more like her than I do. I remember as a kid before they got married, my mom was so attentive and loving. Then she chose my stepdad and stepsister over me. I'm now 16, and I hate my life because of them 3. My stepsister is a witch, and whenever I bring up the differences in which we're treated, she says her mom is dead, and I'm selfish for not wanting to share my mom. Yesterday, we got into an argument after she went through my clothes, and she said I'm unwanted and that my mom is more of a mom to her than she is to me, in front of my mom, who smiled and looked at me to see how I would react. I said, "Your mom might have died, but I also lost my mom too. You can have her. I'm already an orphan in my eyes." My stepsister started crying, saying that I'm disgusting for saying my mom is gone, when actually it's her mom that died. My mom co-signed and said I should be ashamed of myself for trying to make it seem like I don't have a mom, and I'm an a-hole for the comparison. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mom literally abandoned you. She just doesn't like being called out. Play hurtful games, win hurtful prizes. Not the a-hole. But remember, you are trapped with these people for 2 more years. Don't make your life harder for momentary happiness of small digs. They don't care, and you can always suffer more. You are trapped with monsters, but the second you can leave, do. This. OP, I know 2 years seems like forever at 16. But you're strong and you can do it. Suck it up for now. Keep your head down, keep your mouth shut as much as you can. Study hard and stay out of trouble. Talk to any adult you can trust that might help in putting a plan in place to get the hell out of there once you turn 18. Try to think about the things you like and are good at. School counselors may be able to help you figure out how to turn that into a career and start you on that path. And once you're free, cut ties and never look back. Even if things are hard, you're going to find amazing friends and you can make your own family. Life gets so much better when you find your tribe and have a support network. It sucks, but you don't need them and they don't deserve you. Not the a-hole at all. Your ma doesn't have the right to call herself your mom. She gave that away when she decided she wasn't going to pay attention to you. You have every reason to be angry. I'm sorry for your loss. I'd be tempted to call her by her first name from now on for that exact reason. But as someone else wisely said, you've got 2 years left. Don't make it harder on yourself. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for giving my daughter the larger room when her stepsisters share a room? When I first moved out of my parents' house into my own apartment, I bought myself a decent queen-sized bedroom set, wooden bed frame with headboard, dresser, 2 nightstands, a storage ottoman, a vanity table, and a bookcase. I bought decent quality stuff so that it would last, and it has. When I moved in with my now husband, we had to get a larger bed anyway and he wanted fresh stuff, so there was the question of what to do with my furniture. My daughter was turning 4 and was starting to grow out of her crib/toddler bed anyway, so I arranged it in what would be her room and moved her out of her crib to that. There was only one room aside from the master that would fit the set, so she ended up with the larger of the 2 other upstairs bedrooms. My husband's 2 older daughters would be sharing a room, and the even smaller bedroom off of the finished basement would be a guest room/office. Since the 3rd upstairs room is smaller, we have bunk beds in there to save space. The girls have now seen that my daughter not only has a bigger room, but has grown-up furniture, and they and their mother are launching accusations of favoritism. This just isn't true. They are adamant that we should at the very least be putting her in a twin-sized bed instead of having one child be a literal queen with a larger bed, or even throw out an entire set of furniture to move her into the smaller room and have the 2 older girls share the larger room. That's so expensive and wasteful, and I just don't see the point. 1, they're only here 50% of the time. I don't see the point of dedicating the larger bedroom or 2 separate bedrooms to kids who are only here half of the time. 2, this furniture wasn't bought specifically for her, and this is the only bedroom it would fit in with space to walk around. It literally has to go in this room or be thrown away. 3, while it is more adult, she will be able to grow into it, instead of us constantly having to update furniture as she grows out of it. The furniture is also less than 7 years old, so throwing it away would be wasteful. Am I just seeing this wrong? My daughter's father, the only other person in real life this has been discussed with yet, and I were both only children. But even still, throwing away perfectly fine furniture because of perception would just not happen. It's just a bedroom set. Now for the top comments. You gave a queen bed set to a 4-year-old, while 2 older, presumably larger, children are sharing a smaller room with twin beds? You're the a-hole. Doesn't matter if they're only here half the time. That's still a lot of time and you are clearly showing favoritism, even if you aren't doing so intentionally. Either sell the queen bed set or make the queen bed a guest room and move your daughter into the smallest room with a twin bed. Since she is smallest, it isn't fair to give her even more space than 2 larger children. Plus, a lot of kids who split time end up feeling like they don't really have a home because they get downgraded because they're only here half the time. You're the a-hole. You are trying to rationalize favoring one kid. That rarely ends well. Try to think about it from their point of view. They have to share a small room with bunk beds because you consider them guests that stay with you every other week, instead of kids that are part of your family. Also, the set doesn't have to stay together. Pieces can go in other rooms. Exactly this. Imagine being a kid who has to go somewhere where it clearly isn't welcome and others are treated way better. You better try damn hard to make them feel welcome in the future if you don't want to end as the bitter stepmom everyone hates, including your daughter, who will be resented by them and will eventually notice who is at fault for this. You're the a-hole. I could see if they were there only for the occasional visit, but they live there half the time. You are being terribly unfair. Either give each girl their own room, or sell the furniture and put the older girls in the big bedroom. What you would probably do if they were all equal in your eyes, though, is to give the 10-year-old the small room alone and put the younger two in a room together. You have several options better than what you are currently doing. When you decide to make it right, let the girls help choose the decor as much as you can. They deserve to feel at home and valued. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to accept a deal with my parents that would benefit my sister? My stepsister and I will take the SAT again for school. I've already taken it before and gotten a 1500. My sister got 1100. Our parents, to motivate us, gave us a deal that would be put in motion if we both accepted. If we got 50 plus points, then they will give us money based on our increase. If we don't reach our goal, then we'll get more chores. I find this horrendously unfair, and I didn't accept it. My thinking is that it's much harder to get a 1500 to a 1550 than an 1100 to 1150. You'll obviously get some sort of logistic growth in terms of effort. I didn't accept the deal because I honestly think it's unfair, and I probably will not get significantly higher than last time. Scores this high will taper out, and there is that random chance factor. My stepsister is honestly pissed at me. She says she's been studying for a long time and that she has really worked hard for the test. I honestly don't care. I shouldn't be punished for having a higher score. Once again, it's much harder to improve a higher score than a lower one. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I can see giving some kind of incentive for increasing your score, but punishing for not is unreasonable. Your parents are being a-holes. These parents are weird. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't have agreed to it either. Your parents could just propose different things for you both. Your stepsister might be pissed, but she will get over it. Don't fret. And it's clear why you scored 1500 on the first pass. Excellent critical thinking skills. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You are thinking logically from your standpoint. You have a high score and you do not believe that you could improve your score. Hats off to your sister for studying, but that's her, not you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she no longer makes the rules? At the time, I was 26. I had a job, and I was saving money to get a place of my own. My dad suffered from sciatica that put him out of work for a while. So we all had to stay home to take care of him. During that period of time, I didn't do anything except work and come home. So I figured, considering that I'm the only employed person in the house, maybe I deserve a little privacy when my dad didn't need to be attended to. Boy, was I wrong. My mother and I got into a big argument over the fact that my bedroom door was closed. She asked me why I had closed the door, and I told her that I just wanted some privacy. My mother replied to this by saying, "You don't have any privacy in this house." At this point, I'm annoyed, and I said, "Then this isn't a house, it's a prison." My mother looked stunned at this, and then she asked what made me say that. I told her that not having any privacy is the same thing correctional officers tell inmates in prison, and that if she didn't believe me, that she should ask Dad, since he used to be a correctional officer. She just looked at me and said, "Well, if you don't like it, you can pack up your stuff and go." And that's exactly what I did. It took a while, little less than a year. But my dad's sciatica had healed up quite a bit, and he was able to walk around on his own to do a lot of things. By this time, I already had my own place. My mother was upset that I didn't tell her that I was saving money for my own place, but eventually her love changed, and she wound up being happy that I was finally out on my own. Fast forward a few months. My mother calls me and tells me that their SSI got cut off, so they needed a place to stay until they get their benefits back. I immediately tell them to come over. We might not have agreed on a lot of things, but I didn't want to see them homeless. For about a month or so, things were working out fine. My dad's sciatica has healed enough to where he was able to get a job as a security guard. Then things went a little sour. One day, I come home and I noticed that some things weren't the same as they were when I left earlier that day. For clarification, here's what I saw. 1. I accumulated a good selection of horror movies. Halloween, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, etc. Those were gone. 2. My bedroom door was closed when I left, and now it's open. I asked my mom what happened to my movies and why my bedroom door was open. Here's what she said. I told you we don't close doors, and horror movies are gateway for demons, so I got rid of them. I then replied by saying that when I was living in their house, I had to go by their rules. Now they're living in my house, and they're still trying to make the rules. And they can't do that when they're in someone else's house. My mother said that I'm always supposed to obey her no matter how old I get. She also said that what I said was disrespectful and rude. I love my mom, but I'm not sure if she's right. What do you guys think? Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Wow, just wow. She's a guest in your house. This is not okay, no matter if she's your mother or not. For those of you wondering about my dad's point of view in this situation, he does in fact choose not to get involved. Not the a-hole. In this house, we watch Evil Dead 2 during Thanksgiving dinner. And if I hear any backtalk, we'll wash down dinner with a big glass of Reanimator. Now if you'll excuse me, I'll be in my room pleasuring myself with the door closed. Lol, if he's bold enough, do it with the door open, and maybe she'll start closing them herself. Not the a-hole. It's your place. Hit them with the "do you pay bills around here to be making decisions?" and keep it moving. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that my husband isn't her husband? I'll just get straight to the issue. My, female 33, sister, female 28, recently rented an apartment in our neighborhood. She moved out after she broke off her engagement with her fiancé of 4 years. She has a demanding job, she works long hours, nurse, and added more days' work to be able to pay for rent. I'd cook her meals once to twice a week, and my husband would take them to her. I'd show up and clean the apartment for her out of respect for what she does, which is pretty stressful. I knew she has been struggling, so I did all I could. She'd come over whenever she has a day off, to thank us for giving her meals and helping her out with the apartment. However, after a week or so, I noticed my husband cooking whenever I say I didn't want to, saying my sister could use a homemade meal. I'd call him to see where he was, and he comes home to tell me my sister had him clean the basement so she could move the rest of her things. She called him and had him carry boxes for her for a whole day. She'd call him and not me to bring her a charger because she forgot hers at work. It's like she completely forgot about me. I went to have a talk with her, and she barely found a time to speak to me. I asked her why she didn't call me when she needed something but kept calling my husband. She said she didn't notice and that I must be busy with my son even though my husband would help with him too. I told her to call me if she needed something and let my husband get some rest from working all week. She said okay, but it got too much when she called my husband's phone while he was napping, and I answered for him. She told me her kitchen faucet needed fixing and was messing up her kitchen, and so she called my husband to help her fix it. I told her he was napping and wasn't feeling well since the morning, but she kept saying just a few minutes, it won't take long. I reminded her that she should have called my phone, but she said that fixing the faucet was men's work. Anyway, I gave her the number of a plumber we know, but she complained about plumbers taking a lot of money. I snapped and told her my husband isn't her husband that she could call whenever she needed something. That just because she lives near, she gets to have him work for her. She got upset, and I haven't spoken to her since this conversation. My mom knew and berated me saying she's my younger sister, that she's going through a lot and I needed to help her. She told me I hurt my sister with my comment and that I needed to apologize to her. Added to say that she rented a ground floor apartment. It has a storage room that looks like a basement, and it's obvious she's struggling with rent because I think it's expensive. But it was her decision, so I can't comment on that. Also, those of you asking about her calling her landlord to handle maintenance, I honestly didn't think about it because I never lived in an apartment, and I don't know whether her landlord is even aware of these issues. I should quickly resort to us for help. But I'm definitely bringing up to see what the issue is. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but are you sure she really needed him to fix the faucet? I've been thinking the same thing. Same. Spontaneous basement cleaning seems more than a little suspicious. Your sister is not going to give herself limits, so you need to set boundaries with your husband. He needs to know how you're feeling and why you don't feel their relationship is appropriate. You sound like you're feeling insecure, which is fine, but you need to explain that what he's doing with your sister makes you feel bad, not the a-hole. My husband is clearly feeling uncomfortable having to get things done for her and told me he needed a break, but couldn't tell her seeing how she has been struggling to adapt to her new routine. Honestly, not the a-hole. She crossed boundaries. She had a warning. She still did it. Reminding someone of that never hurts. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to help pay for my brother's surgery after he told me to get married 3 weeks after my wife passed away? My male 34, wife female 29, passed away this past year after battling breast cancer for 2 years. It was an incredibly difficult phase, and a lot has happened in such a short time. My family have been supportive of me and my wife before, but my brother was acting inappropriately and would sometimes hurt my wife with comments like, "You won't be upset if my brother got remarried," and would bring up husbands he knew who couldn't deal with their wife's illness and walked away. He constantly reminded her that I was a saint for sticking around instead of bailing out. I cut contact with him, but my mom pressured me into letting him come to the funeral 4 months after cutting contact. I started seeing him regularly at my family's house after the funeral. He'd sit in front of me and start talking about me feeling alone and needing help with being a widower, then casually suggested that I get remarried, and that was 3 weeks, less than a month after my wife was laid to rest. He even recommended a few friends that I needed to start talking to. I got into a huge argument with him, and I told him to his face that he was dead to me from that moment on, and I haven't seen him since then. My family thought what I said was cruel and were upset with me. He got engaged. I didn't show up. He got married, and I didn't show up either. I heard he has been in and out of the hospital for health issues related to a heart condition he's been dealing with his whole life. And I think this is one of the reasons why my family never holds him accountable for being harsh and inconsiderate. I got a call from my parents telling me my brother needed money for a surgery at the end of this month, and that everyone already paid X amount of money to help, and asked if I could contribute. I didn't want to discuss it, but they visited me and talked about me not even visiting my brother at the hospital, despite knowing the reason I went no contact. They said that it was wrong of me to not help him while others who has no blood relation to were helping. They wanted me to make it up to him and help pay for his surgery because no matter what happens, he's my brother. He's struggling and I needed to help him. They tried to argue when I brought up that he hurt me and my wife with his behavior. Then they said that they can't believe I'm being cruel and heartless. That was the last time we spoke. Now my sister is calling saying the same thing to me, pressuring me and saying I'm refusing to help out of spite. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Tell them you'll be happy to help his widow fill out her dating profile when he's gone. And if that shocks and horrifies them, well, maybe then they'll finally understand why he's not getting a second chance from you. This exactly. Why support the brother when he wouldn't support OP? Karma doesn't like stupid games and pays back in full. Not the a-hole. And the family can get over it and pay for their own son instead of expecting him to do it. Not the a-hole. He minimized the pain that you and your wife were going through, and now wants money to help him through a similar situation? Screw that. He very obviously has enough people to help him financially, without you being one of them. He should have been more sensitive to your situation, especially since he has health problems himself. He doesn't deserve you. I really don't understand why he'd behave like this towards people who suffer from illness when he's dealing with the same thing. I always thought he'd understand what others go through, but is always being harsh and insensitive, and clearly has no respect for people's feelings. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my sister-in-law's partner in his own house? Sister-in-law is Kate. Sister-in-law's partner is Bob. My partner has a big family. We ended up together several years, and at first, the family didn't like me. This is because I was different to my partner's ex and her siblings' partners. What I mean by that is all the sisters have children, and their partners are not good fathers. Their own father left and returned, and then left and so on. So that was their norm. They saw me as strange for interacting well with my stepkids, kids that were not biologically my own. Over time, they came to accept me and realized how I was interacting with my stepkids was good. Even Kate's own children loved me. Her youngest, which is 2 years old, adores me, which Kate found unusual as he normally stays away from men. I assume that's because with a family full of females and absentee fathers, it's hard to get used to males, but easily fixed when you ride down a slide. Until yesterday, I had never met Bob. He never attended family gatherings and was often working away. The rest of the family don't like him, and even Kate herself prefers when he is working away. But due to everything that has happened, he is in the house 24/7. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, as they once thought the same of me. I was wrong. Yesterday, I dropped the kids over hers for a week while my partner goes into hospital. Once I dropped her off, I went back to Kate's, as she lives close to the hospital. Kate took my kids to pick up her youngest from nursery and said I can wait in her house. She told Bob, and out she went. As soon as that door closed, he came straight downstairs and squared up to me. He told me that this is his house and he is in charge, that his kids are his and I need to stay away from them. He was practically screaming. It went on for about 10 minutes and I stayed quiet. There was no chance of me getting a say in. Kate came home and Bob was all smiles. So I asked Kate if there was something wrong with Bob while he was in the room. She asked why and I explained all that happened. I asked her if he was insecure about something, if he thought I was trying to take his kids. She saw red and berated him. He didn't have a reason for reacting that way. Hell, he couldn't even get anything out. He stood there, shell-shocked. I feel bad about how I handled it, but at the same time, nothing I did warranted his behavior. First time I even met him. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is perfect. He clearly ain't the boss in the house. Exactly. Thank God she stood up to her husband. He is way out of line, not the a-hole. What Bob did was a dominance display, trying to show you he is the boss, as you yourself point out. By bringing it up in front of Kate, you completely undercut his attempt and showed you are not to be threatened. That said, he is not going to like you for it, although that would have been a losing battle anyways. Just be wary of him escalating, not the a-hole. P.S. You're also probably right that it comes from a place of insecurity. But that's his problem, so don't let him make it your problem. Not the a-hole. You are a legend. I'm just picturing him going absolutely berserkers on you. Then Kate comes back, and you casually ask, "So, what's wrong with this guy?" In front of him. Legend. Her flipping out on him is just icing on a cake. The guy tried acting tough, but crumbled like a cookie when his wife got in his face. Clearly, something is wrong with him, and you're probably right about it being an insecurity of some sort.